And we are back yet again on the thiccmaninc podcast with our Week 7 NFL record predictions. And while we have been dreadful so far, that simply means we are about to turn it around and get every single pick right from every single game for the remainder of the season. And starting things off with a game which is just wrong, can never be right, Thursday Night Football. This week, we see the Arizona Cardinals taking on the New Orleans Saints. And while the Cardinals have been incredibly limited on offense this season, while their defense has strolled at points, the Saints are in deep doo-doo. They are fighting for their lives. They were supposed to be a borderline playoff team. All their talent's injured. Alvin Kamara is the only one left standing, able to carry this offense. I just don't think he's going to be able to do enough against the Cardinals. And good old DeAndre Hopkins is making his return on this electric Thursday night game. So I'm picking the Cardinals. They're going to get to 3-4. Saints are going to fall 2-5, and their season's basically going to be over.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints are a team that, when you take a look at what they've done so far, you're like, they would be really good if all their players were healthy. If Jameis was healthy, if Michael Thomas was healthy, if Jarvis Landry was healthy, if Chris Olave was healthy. I mean, he didn't play last week, but he's been healthy majority of the season. Otherwise, you'd see them, you'd think, oh, they're 100% a playoff team. That hasn't been the case, but they still kept the game close last week with the Bengals. And the Cardinals, on the other side of things, they've had their team mostly healthy, and they've still been struggling to win games. But DeAndre Hopkins is coming back this week. So heading into this game, I do think DeAndre Hopkins coming back is going to be enough to get the Cardinals over the hump. But on the Saints side of things, they put up 220 rushing yards last week versus the Bengals, kept that game close. So wouldn't be surprised if they win, because it is also Thursday Night Football, and every single game this season has seemed to be a mess on Thursday nights.
El Chargers Chiefs game is alright, but for the most part, Thursday Night Football looks like $1 billion waste of money from our friends at Amazon Prime. Moving on to the actual football games, we've got the Cleveland Browns taking on the Baltimore Ravens. I think most people have been surprised with the level of success Jacoby Brissett has had. He's been alright, he hasn't been terrible. He's just kind of keeping the Browns' head borderline above water until Deshaun comes back, so they might actually have a shot at making the playoffs. But that's not going to matter this week. The Ravens can blow all the games they want. They can lose to the Giants. They're still better than the Cleveland Browns. They're still the best team in the AFC North, and they're going to remind everyone that they're still a playoff team and a Super Bowl contender with a dynamic victory over the Browns.
Yeah, it was a tough loss to the Giants. As a Ravens fan, you're never happy when you lose to Daniel Jones, when you have Lamar Jackson on your side of the football. And when you watch Ravens games, when they are on, when their offense is in rhythm, they seem like the most unstoppable offense in the NFL. Unfortunately for them, that is not always the case, as we saw last week with the Giants defense getting them off track. They didn't allow Lamar Jackson to get in that rhythm, and they lost the game. They had turnovers late, and they couldn't execute against a Giants team that's much better coached than it's been in the past. And heading into this game against the Browns, I think their offense is going to be back on fire. They're coming off of a tough loss. They have the better quarterback. Jacoby Brissett is not better than Lamar Jackson. They don't have better receivers. And Nick Chubb faltered last week in the Browns game.
There is no planet on which the Baltimore Ravens have better receivers than the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are simply superior in that aspect. Amari Cooper alone is a better receiver than anyone the Ravens have had in about a decade.
Well, they have Mark Andrews, and at this point, Mark Andrews is basically a receiver because, I'm doing my research for these podcasts, Isaiah.
So your research has told you that Mark Andrews is a wide receiver as opposed to a tight end.
Let me throw this stat out there. Every single time the Ravens have dropped back, he has not pass blocked one time. So in essence, he's going down the field to receive the ball, and I think most people would agree that Mark Andrews is much more scary for a defensive cover than Amari Cooper.
Yeah, but he's also still a tight end, so they don't have better receivers. You can say they got better tight ends.
They have a better receiving threat than the Browns do. Is that better?
The Browns have a superior receiving core. You gotta love the semantics. All right, before we get further bogged down into a meaningless Cleveland Browns game, we are going to move on to a meaningless NFC South game between the Buccaneers and the Panthers. And water is leaking into the ship in Tampa Bay. It's going down. The cannons aren't firing. They're soggy. Tom Brady's arm looks soggy. His marital status looks soggy. But it's the Panthers. It's the worst team in football. It's just a mess. There is no planet on which the Panthers have a shot at winning. I don't care they got a new coach. I don't care about the bye. They are going to lose. And they are going to lose badly.
If the Buccaneers find a way to lose this game, Tom Brady may as well, retire on the spot and go and try and fix his marriage, because this season is going nowhere and it is going to sink faster than we all expect if they lose this game. There's no reason they should lose. The Panthers are going to have a fire sale on players. They just got rid of Robbie Anderson. DJ Moore will probably be gone before the deadline. Brian Burns will probably be gone before the deadline. Christian McCaffrey almost certainly will be gone before the trade deadline. The Panthers are not trying to win right now, and they're trying to get rid of all of their assets for future draft picks. So, and on top of that, the Buccaneers have better talent all over the field on offense. So there's no reason they should lose this game. The Buccaneers are going to win.
Again, there's been no reason they should have lost a bunch of games this year, and yet here they are. Speaking of a team which has no reason to lose games, yet still finds a way to, the Cincinnati Bengals are taking on the Atlanta Falcons in Cincinnati. And everyone loves the Falcons. Oh, they're the underdogs. They got Marcus Mariota. They're scrappy. They got Kyle Pitts, who I thankfully didn't draft any of my fantasy teams. It's an alright team. And they've been in games far more than they should have been this year. This team should be terrible. Yet here they are, almost atop the South. But the Bengals are still a good team. They got better receivers. Jamar Chase can run all the go routes he wants. Eventually he's going to get open. Eventually he's going to break free. Their O-line, comparable. Their quarterback situation, also comparable. But the Bengals defense is also just flat out better. So for that reason and that reason alone, the defense, I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
You're just wrong at this point. I mean, we need to admit
you think the Falcons' defense is better.
We need to admit our mistakes with the Falcons. Somehow, coaching, whether we underestimated their talent, the Falcons are actually a good football team this year. And every game they've lost has been very close. They're very close to being a 6-0 and undefeated football team. 1 point away from beating the Saints, 4 points away from beating the Rams, and probably would have beat the Buccaneers if not for a horrific roughing the passer call. They are very close to being by far the best team in the NFC South when we all thought they were going to be pathetic heading into the season. And on the Bengals side of things, they've been massive disappointments. Even games they've won this season, we kind of expected their offense to put on more of a show. We kind of expected them to put up more points, and they haven't done that. Their offense lacks creativity. It lacks ingenuity. Zach Taylor, by the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if half the Bengals fan base is calling for his job because he's not getting enough out of what the Bengals have on offense. And I think the Falcons are going to win this game because they've been close every single week, and the Bengals have been disappointing almost every single week.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the Bengals defense is better. You can say, oh, they needed a questionable call to beat the Buccaneers. Beating the Buccaneers isn't an achievement this year. And high-end talent prevails. And I'm looking over there at that Falcon sideline. I don't see much high-end talent. Pitts is about it. Maybe Cordell Patterson if he gets back. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be back. So I just can't see him winning. They don't have it in them.
I mean, look what happened every time we picked the Steelers because we thought their high-end talent at wide receiver would help them carry them over their opponent.
Well, unfortunately, they have low-end talent at quarterback. We'll get to that later. But speaking of a team with high-end talent all over their offense, a team which is gritty, a team which finds a way to win tough games, we've got the Detroit Lions, who are eyeing Dak Prescott, licking their lips, ready to go. They're ready to get after it. Oh, Dak, you're back, your thumb's healthy? Not anymore, son. You know the Cowboys pass rush is going to massacre Prescott. They are going to grab his thumb and twist it. They're going to send him back to the
Cowboys pass rush is going to massacre Prescott.
The Lions pass rush is going to massacre Prescott. They're going to grab his thumb. They're going to twist it. They're going to send him back to the IR. And they are going to have a dominant showing against Cooper Rush in the second half when Dak's inevitably carried off the field with a thumb injury. Detroit is going to win this game. They're going to turn their season around. MCDC is the best head coach in the entire NFC, certainly in the NFC North, and he will elevate the Detroit Lions to a victory here.
That's quite possibly the worst take I think you've ever had, and you have to try it. I don't know where it even comes from. The Lions have the worst defense in the NFL. They have the worst pass rush in the NFL. And in a game they've even won this season, they had to put up 36 points. In games they've lost, they put up 35 and 45 points. Their defense is pathetic. And they're playing a Cowboys defense that is by far the best pass rush in the NFL, in my opinion, especially with Micah Parsons healthy, and they're not going to be able to handle it. Even if they put up 30 points, the Cowboys offense is going to put up 50. The Cowboys defense is going to be the one getting stops. They've held teams to under 20 points this season. I believe they have the third or fourth best scoring defense in the NFL. So it's going to be much like the Patriots versus Lions last week. And at this point, it's time to admit that Dan Campbell may not be as good as we thought he was, and he's probably not going to lead Detroit to the promised land like we wanted to.
I know you and the peons like ignoring this position, but there are 5 of them at the field at all times. The Lions have one of the best offensive lines in the league. So you can rant and rave about Micah Parsons and that elite pass rush all you want. When they get neutralized by that unit up front, it's not going to matter. When Micah Parsons Dolphins is held to maybe half a sack, I'm not scared of that pass rush. I'm not worried about that pass rush. Detroit's not worried about that pass rush.
All the Cowboys need to do at this point is literally get one stop, and they won the game. That's all they need to do. That's all their defense has to do, because the Lions' defense is so bad, they're giving up 34 points a game. Like I said, they scored 45 points one week, 35 points another week, and still lost. There's no way.
You're also acting like the Cowboys have some elite offense, some collection of world beaters who can effortlessly torch anyone. Now, granted, they're better than the Patriots. I will give you bet that. I think that game might have been a little bit of a fluke. Belichick might have just out-game planned them. Matt Patricia might have had some home cooking, got it done. But no, the Cowboys offense is not that good. It's not going to scorch them.
They're playing the Lions
points.
Defense. The Lions
defense is playing Dak Prescott. I have absolute faith in Detroit. You have no faith, and that's okay. I forgive you. And the Cowboys faithful, they'll forgive you too, because you just jinxed the heck out of them. Now on to a fan base, which I personally love. A fan base which is gritty, much like the Detroit Lions, who also have a cat for a mascot, but instead of the North are located deep, deep in the South. Jacksonville Jaguars are taking on the New York Giants. And I feel bad for the Jaguars. They look better than last season by a wide margin. They're actually in games. It seems their running back room is finally getting healthy, but unfortunately they have to play the 5-1, possibly the best team in the NFL, New York Football Giants. And the New York Football Giants defense is going to have a field day. Lawrence has looked promising at points this year, but he's not going to look promising on Sunday. Giants pass rush is going to get after him. Their secondary is going to lock down the lackluster Jaguars receivers, and it's going to be a rather unfortunate offensive showing for the Jags. As for the Giants offense, here, Saquon, carry us to victory. That's all that needs to be done. The Jaguars are going to lose this game.
Now, there are a handful of Giants fans out there that are delusional and think the Giants are better than they actually are. They think they're, going all of a sudden going to go on a Super Bowl run. And then there's also, on the flip side, there's other fans out there that think the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL and want to discredit them because the games they've been winning have been very close. And you could easily make the argument that the Giants could lose those games. But in fact, they are winning those games. The coaching staff has done an excellent job with the players they have. They are actually winning these games, and they're winning them because of the job they're doing coaching, because of Saquon Barkley, and because of their defense with Wink Martindale has been very good. On the opposite side of the field, they're playing the Jaguars, who's, it kind of seems like we're the ghost of Urban Meyer maybe still be existing on their sideline, because they just found a way to lose to one of the worst offenses in the NFL in the Colts, and they found a way to lose to the Texans, who are also pretty horrific. So now they're playing a team that's on fire in the Giants. They're winning close games. They're beating teams they probably shouldn't as far as the talent level goes, and when you compare the Giants and Jaguars, two organizations that last year were going through a bit of turmoil and one starting to turn the corner, the one turning the corner is going to be the one to win the game. And I don't even know if much of what I just said makes sense, but the Giants are winning this game.
I will say, the Jaguars do have an ace up their sleeve. They have the Giants slayer, Doug Peterson, on the sideline, which is beneficial. He owned New York when he was in the NFC East, and he might continue that ownership as a Jaguar. Oh, Lord. This is going to be a rough one. On to the Tennessee Titans Indianapolis Colts game. This game is going to be a game worthy of being featured on Thursday Night Football. That is the lowest insult I can levy at it. It's not going to be a good one. And you think, two amazing running backs, two functional offensive line, two teams that are strong. It's going to be a old-fashioned bare-knuckle blow. But no, the Colts are going to give Matt Ryan the ball. They're going to let him pass. The Titans are going to give Ryan Tannehill the ball. They're going to let him pass, and it's just going to look horrible. If Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor don't combine for 50 carries, something has gone horribly wrong. And I think something is going to go horribly wrong. This game's going to stink. I'm going to pick the Titans because they're at home. But if you're an NFL fan, don't watch this one.
Yeah, my opinion is not going to change on both of these teams regardless of who wins and regardless of how they win. The Colts should not be above 500 with how their offense has been playing, especially with what Matt Ryan has showed this season. And the Titans, on the flip side, their fan base has been coming at us in our comment section because we continuously say they are not a very good football team. And when you look at the numbers, they're not. Their offense is just as bad as the Panthers are. I think 207 yards a game right next to them. They're the second worst offense in the NFL as far as yards go. And their defense has also not been that great. Their defense has the fifth most yards given up in the NFL. So both teams are not good. Both teams' offenses have been unimpressive. And for the sake of this video, this prediction, I'm picking the Titans to win. I think Derrick Henry is going to control the game on the offensive side of the ball for the Titans.
Now watch, this game's going to be amazing and go all the way to the final minute of overtime, only for Derrick Henry to bust out an 80-yard touchdown run to win it. Now we've spoken ill upon them. But a game I am very comfortable speaking ill upon, the Panthers. The Panthers of the North, aka the Green Bay Packers, are taking on the team formerly known as the Commanders, or formerly known as the football team. And look, I say a lot of mean things about A.A. Ron. He lost to the Jets. That should be embarrassing. I don't think he's losing 2 in a row, particularly the 2 bad teams. While the Jets might be 4-2 with impressive wins, they're still not good. But they are worlds better than this Washington team, particularly if Carson Wentz is not starting. Taylor Heinicke is not going to be able to elevate this team to win.
Are you saying Jets in Washington?
I'm saying the Jets were a better team than Washington. Packers are a better team. They've got Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be able to outduel Taylor Heinicke. The Redskins' defensive line is a disappointment. That's the only way you can really put it. They've got all these high-end players, all these names, which are just not performing, and it's not going to change this Sunday. Packers record a win on the road in Washington.
Both these teams are incredibly disappointing. I mean, heading into the season, I thought Washington's defense was going to be good. I thought their offense was going to be solid because I'm believe more than most in Carson Wentz and his ability to facilitate an offense, especially when they have one very solid receiver in Curtis Samuel and then 2 potential elite receivers in Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin. But that has not been the case, and for some reason, Antonio Gibson has not been getting the ball, and he's been exiled by Ron Rivera. So for that reason, I'm picking the Packers to win this game. I think Washington has more dysfunction going on than the Packers, if that is even possible, especially what's going on at the ownership level for Washington. So I think the Packers wind up winning.
Yeah, look, it'd be a fairly impressive victory for the Commanders football team, whatever you want to call them, if with Dan Snyder threatening to end the entire NFL, they went out and beat the Green Bay Packers. I'd like that. That'd make me happy, but unfortunately it will not be happening. Speaking of a man who always seems to be happy, happiness is an emotion which Russell Wilson possesses in abundance, but he does not bring that happiness to the fans. The Broncos are terrible. Their offense stinks. Their defense is good. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really matter when the Broncos can't score more than 16 points a game. The Jets are 4-2, they're on fire, but they've also got to go to mile high. I don't think their offense is going to be able to function. I think we're in for another nice 12-9 matchup, which ultimately the Broncos will triumph in, but it'll make everyone's day worse watching it.
Well, their defense is elite. It's not just very good, and unfortunately for them, their offense is the worst in the NFL, and Russell Wilson is he's horrible. He's horrible at this point. And then on the Jets side of the ball, they've really seemed to be finding a rhythm. Breece Hall, over the last few weeks, has proven he can be one of the best running backs in the NFL and has been dominant. He's much like Saquon for the Giants has become the engine to their offense. He's become the engine to the Jets offense. And Zach Wilson is not being asked to do a lot because of how good Breece Hall has been. Garrett Wilson has also proven to be a very solid receiver, and the Jets have a very solid receiving core. And for that reason, it is crazy that in 2022, the Jets offense is more competent than the Broncos. I mean, they put up 40 points this season and 27 points. The Broncos have put up more than 20 points once. So unless the Broncos defense truly is as dominant as it can be, I mean, it limited the Chargers and brought them to overtime last week, then yeah, the Broncos probably win. But I think the Jets are going to be able to put up enough points with Breece Hall and the receivers they have on offense to overcome the 12 points the Broncos will probably put up.
I'm glad you've evolved past your Breece Hall slander. You came out there, he's not a good running back. Michael Carter's getting more touches than in week 1. I'm glad you've been able to evolve past that. Grant Kenneth Walker's doing well too, but no one said he wasn't going to. Either way, now that's
you picked Kenneth Walker as the better running back also. Let's not just try and slide that.
I think I might still have that, but I also didn't slander Breece Hall for no reason. He just came out week 1. Yeah, this guy stinks. People drafting in fantasy are dumb. Just rude. Rude to a young man who is thriving. Wealthy, thriving, in the biggest market in the world. On
Whatever
the best
you want to tell
team
yourself.
In the biggest market in the world. In all sports. Better than the Yankees, better than the Giants, certainly better than the basketball teams. And you had to disrespect him. We can move on to a similarly large market in Las Vegas, where the Raiders will be taking on the Texans in a game reminiscent of a playoff matchup from about half a decade ago. And now, unlike this playoff matchup, both these teams are very bad. The Texans seem to be not openly tanking. They're fighting. They just can't win any of these fights, but they're in a very good spot in the future, particularly in terms of draft capital from the Browns and themselves. Now we got the Raiders team, who should have won far more games, should be one of the better teams in the AFC, has one of the best receiving cores and a very good tight end, and yet are still struggling. I think they're going to pull this one out. Shouldn't be too difficult. Their offense is going to torch the Texans defense, and there's really not much old Lovie Smith's going to be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders Raiders you feel bad for their fans at this point because they've lost a ton of close games, gone to overtime, then lose by 1 point to the Chiefs. They are a good football team that only has one win. Now, some of that may fall. Maybe that falls on Josh McDaniels because he's not galvanizing that locker room to win those close games, but they have an elite offense, elite offensive pieces. The defense is not as good as we've hoped, but when you're playing the Texans, all of that goes out the window and your high-end talent carries you to the victory. So Derek Carr is going to put up big numbers. Devonta Adams is going to have another big game, and they're going to, I feel like, run right over the Texans.
Honestly, high-end talent, low-end talent, doesn't particularly matter if you're playing the Texans. You're probably still going to be able to find a way to beat them. Speaking of talent, we've got a very talented game in LA where all the stars shine the brightest between the Seahawks and the Chargers. And the Seahawks have been reinvigorated this offseason with the acquisition of Geno Smith, a man capable of leading the locker room, a good communicator, someone who really is the face of your franchise and not just corny for the sake of the brand or cameras. That is facing off against Justin Herbert and the Chargers, who have a commanding offense. They've struggled at points, but still look very solid. When everything's clicking, it's really clicking. And the Chargers defense, which has a phenomenal pass rush, and we don't need to talk about the Seahawks defense. Look, I think both these teams have a good offense. I think only the Chargers have a good defense, which is why I'm going to give them the nod. I'd say it's a home field advantage thing, but everyone knows there is no such thing as a home field advantage in LA.
The Chargers offense I don't think is as good as we all may have hoped, and a big part of that is because Rashawn Slater's now done for the season. Corey Linsley's been hurt, their center, so they're missing probably the two best players on their offensive line, and that is not something that is easy to overcome. They're also missing who they probably expected to be the number one receiver heading into the season, and Keenan Allen. Those are pieces on their offense that are hard to go without. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they're missing Joey Bosa, who's coming back later in the season. But when it comes down to this game, and who I think is going to win, they're playing the Seahawks, whose defense is pretty abysmal. And the Chargers, they still are getting things done. Justin Herbert is clearly one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, I think still. And last week, he had a lot of critics because they were not able to overcome the Broncos. But I think a big part of that comes down to the Chargers' offensive coaching. There's no reason, even if Mike Williams is getting covered by Patrick Surtain, that he should only have 3 or 4 targets. When he made that catch on the sideline, it's clear that he could still make plays in tight and double coverage. And they did not take advantage of Mike Williams' talent this week. So I hope this week they do take advantage of that. They incorporate him more into the game plan and spread the ball around. And because the Chargers have a better defense than the Seahawks, I think they wind up winning, like you said.
I think the decision not to throw Patrick Surtain is perfectly logical, considering he might win Defensive Player of the Year and appears to be one of the best cornerbacks in all of football, probably the best, not probably, is the best this year. So I can get just giving Mike Williams, say, here, you can have him for the night, we'll play 10 on 10 over here. I understand that decision. The ball not getting spread around, getting into other people's hands is the issue with that performance.
Well, they did spread the ball around, but when you're not taking advantage of the best player in the offense not named Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert, it doesn't really make sense. You have to test that sometimes. And they did test it,
there was a but there. There was a but there, which is going to come to something. But no, go on.
And he did make that, what could have been called a catch and was very close and hotly debated on social media in double coverage. And he made the game-winning third down catch to then kick the field goal. So, he needed to be utilized more, in my opinion. But it doesn't really matter. They're playing the Seahawks. Seahawks defense is horrible.
Seahawks lack a number one cornerback who can make someone disappear. Speaking of disappearing, any chance the 49ers had to make the Super Bowl has disappeared early in the season. Their promising quarterback, gone. Their defense, struggling with injuries. Their offense, meh. And now they get to take on the buzzsaw Kansas City Chiefs, who just can't seem to stop winning unless, of course, they have to play the Buffalo Bills, who have an elite defense who can rival San Francisco's if the 49ers were fully healthy. But the Chiefs win this one, not particularly hard for them. Doesn't matter, it's in San Francisco. Mahomes is that guy. Their offense is that good. They're going to throw it to everyone. They're going to get Hilaire involved. Their defense is going to be able to contain Jimmy G, because any defense in the league can contain Jimmy G. And it's going to be a bit of a snooze fest. Thankfully, though, that's not the Sunday night game.
Well, you are right when it comes to the prediction, because the Chiefs are going to win this game because of how dynamic they are on offense. They've really seemed to found their rhythm. They're spreading the ball around to multiple different people. Juju, Scantling, Hardman, Hilaire, Pacheco, McKinnon, Kelsey. There's so many different guys that are touching the ball in that offense, and it is hard for any defense to handle. But something you are wrong about is, unfortunately for me and other fantasy owners, Hilaire is getting the ball less and less over the last 2 weeks. He's being featured less in the offense, so I don't think that's really going to happen. And the 49ers defense, despite their injuries, has still been very solid. And last week, against the sneaky good Falcons team, the Falcons pulled out the win. So I do think the Chiefs are going to win, but on those two specific things, I feel like we're kind of wrong.
Sneaky good good Falcons team. Think them being sneaky good is them actually having a win this season. They're sneaky good for that. That is something most people would not expect by this point in the season. Chiefs are going to blast them. There's no real two ways about it. You disagree?
No, I said the Chiefs are going to win.
Exactly. You didn't say they were going to blast them, though. You didn't say they were going
Fine, they're going to blast them.
There you go. That's all you need to say. Now, a team which is getting blasted not by their opposition, but by the court of public opinion, the Miami Dolphins are rolling to a Tonga right back out on the field to face what is a lackluster pass rush, what is a lackluster defense, what was previously touted as one of the best defenses in football, but since TJ Watt's not there, they look dreadful, and now he is going to have a field game against the Steelers. We don't know who the Steelers quarterback's going to be. It could be Pickett, it could be Trubisky, it could be both. Hopefully for the fans, it's neither, but we do know they're going to stink. As for the Dolphins, they got two of the fastest men in the league. They're going to be able to get open deep. They're going to be able to get open often. They're going to be able to effectively dissect the Steelers' defense. And it's not going to matter what they throw at them. Tua will be able to get the ball into their hands. It doesn't matter if he's seeing double, triple, throwing up gang signs. He is going to find a way to get the ball to Waddle and Hill and Waddle will do the rest.
Yeah,
Easy Dolphins victory on Sunday Night Football.
The Dolphins' offense has been very productive this season, even with Tua out. It's not as good when they're missing Tua, but they've still been okay. I mean, Tyreek Hill's on pace to beat Calvin Johnson's single-season receiving yards record in Mark. So the receivers have been very productive. Jalen Waddle has been awesome. The running game, I think Mike Daniels has established that the running game can be competent, even though there's some work still to do on their offensive line. And Mike Gesicki has been very solid as a tight end. So with Tua back, coming against the Steelers that really only won last week because the Buccaneers, they're going through whatever they're going through with Tom Brady and trying to figure out and get their offense more cohesive. So I think the Dolphins are going to win this game. The Steelers, I think, are at this point in the season are more dysfunctional and they can't really find their way at the quarterback position yet.
Completely agree with you. Steelers are a bunch of bums. Feel bad for Mike Tomlin, but it looks like this is going to be his first ever losing season. And speaking of losers, we're all going to be losers after watching the Monday Night Football matchup between the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears. Who wins this game? Who cares? It's going to be a snooze fest. It's going to be a stinker. It belongs on Thursday night. And the NFL needs to stop putting these mediocre games in primetime. The world doesn't want to see it.
I mean, we see what Bill Belichick does to young quarterbacks. And when you're Justin Fields and don't have a good offensive line, you still have a horrible receiving core. That hasn't changed from last week. You're not going to be able to do much against Bill Belichick, who has the Patriots winning football games right now. And Bailey Zappi has looked very good, even to the point where we're getting reports about him threatening Mac Jones' job. So I think the Patriots are going to win this game. Me and Isaiah got out on them earlier in the season, and they're going to easily handle the Bears.
You want a prediction from me since I didn't give you one? I predict I'm going to be drinking on a Monday night thanks to this game. But yes, the Patriots will win. Fields, worst quarterback in the NFL, not named Baker Mayfield. On that note, that is our podcast. Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Come back and mock us for our many wrong predictions, particularly the Thursday night one, which will have already taken place by the time this video is uploaded. Ciao.